All right, it says it's both working. Now let's see if it pops up. Now let's see. Oh, there it is on Twitch, and I'm hearing it. So let me mute that. And let's see. I don't know where to find streams on YouTube. There it is. Okay, is there sound on YouTube? Let's see. Oh, there it is on Twitch. Yes. I'm hearing it. Yay! We're streaming on 2 places at once, and it's working, and it wasn't hard to set up. So
fantastic.
We may have found a solution.
I just put on some headphones. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
All right, that's exciting. Now, I don't know if anybody will view, so I don't know. I have 2 different windows, 2 different tabs open. Maybe I should just open different windows so I can keep an eye on both chats simultaneously in case somebody pops up and wants to talk. So, how you doing, Ish?
I'm doing all right. A lot has changed since the last time I was on the show. And I mean, not to be too much of a downer, one of the people at one of my RPG tables and also a dear friend passed away recently.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sudden. Yeah, so it's been, I mean, it's been about a month now, but it was a real big change for us. But I'll talk about the games that I'm doing with the game that I'm doing with the people who were in that group and during the recording and all that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm down to 3 games, which is like I haven't had that since probably 2019.
That's a reasonable number of games. I have found. Well, we can. You know what? Why don't we just start the recording and then we can talk about that, all of that. So, let me hit record. Make sure. Oh no. Okay. This is a thing. I have my recording software set up to record Discord, and we're not on Discord. New session. Let's see if I can set this up quickly.
And if you happen to need me to get onto Discord just so that we have a way of recording the audio, I'm happy to do that.
I should be able to pretty quickly here. So it is now set up to record web audio. So that's where we're at. I have other things I need to add in there. I don't know if I hit record on that. I don't know if it's going to get me or not. And I don't have a means of seeing that. Okay, let me hit stop on that. I need to figure out my peak. I got to put back, copy my setup from the other ones. This software has so many different like little modules that you can throw in, and it's all visually like set up in blocks. So I can throw blocks inside of other blocks and whatever. Now I got to figure out what I was doing. So I was using speech denoise right there. I was using peak RMS meters so I can track how we sound there. And then I was doing channels. I think that's how I was getting it to do both of us. Copyright. Okay, so that's the same setup I had before with Discord. Let's see if it works when I hit record. Okay, so I don't see any noise coming from myself. Okay. Can you say something so I can see if it makes a noise?
Yeah, can you hear me? Does it pick up on the no?
No, it's not picking up that either. Oh, maybe because I have it set up for application Safari and I'm not using Safari. That's a thing. We're using Chrome. Now let's see if it does anything. Make a noise.
All right.
Okay, it's picking up you, but not me.
Weird.
I know I've had that before because like I can't hear myself
Mm-hmm.
through the browser thing, so I just need to find a different input device. Is the way I've done it before, and then I have to tell it to pull my sound from my microphone, and it'll input both the browser sound, which is you, and my sound separately. Okay, I think I've got that set up now already. So now I make noise. Oh, I make noise, but it's echoey. Go ahead and say something.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Okay. So that's working. I just need to. No, I can't mute it. What do I need to do? I need to turn off my system because I think it's. Is it? Yeah, it's echoing through my speakers instead of going through my headphones. So if I just turn my speakers off, that should do that. What if I switch? Oh, no, I don't want that either.
This is why sound engineers get paid so much money.
No, I can't hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
So I can't just turn the volume down on the system. I got to find some way to have it not do that. I've had this issue before and I've fixed it before. This is what happens when you get to be my test subject. Are you typing it? Oh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you typing, yeah.
Okay. Oh, shoot. I was just going to say, I wasn't sure if you could hear me, but I don't know how Macs work in the sense of, their counterpart to Windows. Yeah. But Windows lets you do a sound mixer so you can like raise and lower volumes of particular portions. So it's possible you could keep like my sound coming out, but not your, I don't know if that's a thing that it would do.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a way to do it because I've done it before. I just don't know how I did it before because it was a while ago. It might be something I need to do in my recording software too. I think maybe that's what I've. If I do that, no, that doesn't change it. If I copy, no, copy left doesn't do it. If I kill that one, no. Kill left, no. Okay, so I'll just leave the settings the way it was because I don't want to screw it up. Oh, you know what I did before? What if I turn that off? Oh, can I still hear you?
I am talking.
No, I can't. Dang it.
Shoot.
Okay. Let's at least put it there. I mean, it's not that distracting. I think I can deal with it for now, for tonight, and then figure it out later. So close. Everything was moving so fast. You know?
Yeah, it went like 90% correct, and then the last 10% was the tricky part. I've been there.
Yeah.
I think there's whole streams that I had uploaded to YouTube back when I used to do video game streaming, where half the stream is just like me silent because something went wrong with the audio file,
I've been there before.
process.
Okay, no, I'm still hearing it there. I thought I maybe fixed something, but I didn't. Okay, I'm pulling audio from my microphone and Chrome because that's where we have you at. And then it's going into a denoiser, so it'll cut out background noise. I've got my monitoring block. Now, before, I used to, on my old system, I had the recorder after the monitor and then the channel split separate from that. What if I moved the channel split to there? And did it that way. Is that, nope, that doesn't do it. Okay. I mean, that didn't break anything, but it didn't fix anything either. Okay. Well, we can live with this for now, or I could try Googling stuff real quick and see if that helps. We're all wearing headphones, so that's not the issue. Settings. Don't. So if I lower the latency, does that cut it? No. So we're just going to likely drop audio that way. Okay. Oh, maybe that's, do I need to put that at the end? That, oh, no, that didn't do it. Dang it. I think that's why I had the channel split before. Say something?
Something.
Okay. I think I put the channel split after the output before so that, what if I just don't have an output? Does that say something again?
Something.
No, and I lost you. So I need to have some sort of output. What if, so there's the output again. And then when I have the output, that's when it, what if I move the output all the way here? If I do that so that it's just outputting you and not me, now say something again.
All right, I am talking.
Ah, that did it.
Did it fix it?
I can hear you and I'm not hearing my echo.
Wonderful.
So I'm just outputting Chrome and I'm not outputting my own microphone, so I'm not hearing the echo from my microphone. That seems to have done the trick.
Beautiful.
Yay. And I'm sure all of the millions of people who have decided to come and start watching us on the stream are enjoying me doing, self tech support here. So we do. It tells me we have 1 or 2 people watching on YouTube and 1 person watching on Twitch right now, which is
Oh, wow.
more than I expected from not having said anything to anybody. So, and us sitting here doing tech support for the last 8 minutes.
Someone might ask a question about the audio setup.
Well, if you're using Audio Hijack Pro and you want to know how to set up OneStream to be your streaming service, run through and record through Audio Hijack Pro, although it does occur to me eventually I might be able to play around with it because OneStream also has a recording feature. I could just record straight through there as well. And then Sam could strip the audio out of it. But I know I get decent quality out of Audio Hijack Pro. So, well, that's exciting. We are streaming again for the first time in like a year.
Yeah.
We are over a year probably. And I didn't have to go back to OBS, which is the reason I stopped streaming, because OBS was horrible to work with.
I hear that.
And every now and then it would update. And once it updated, it was like, oh, hey, by the way, we updated and all of your settings are gone. So you're starting from scratch. No, eventually I just gave up.
Fair. So
I promised in episode 400 that came out a little while ago that I was going to give it a shot to get back to streaming. So here is my next attempt. We're streaming. So we are going to record an episode of Behind the DM Screen. We are short a DM. So it's just Ish and myself today. But yeah, you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Thank you for your patience and while I fought this fight. So, all right. Welcome to Behind the DM Screen. It is June of 2026. We are 3 DMs talking about our games and helping each other out. That was a lie. I've lied already. It's been 30 seconds and I'm already lying to our listeners. We are 2 DMs talking about our games and help each other out because Mike had to bow out. He is very busy with a lot of his Sly Flourish things and publications and Kickstarters and all the kind of stuff that he does this month. And so Ish is here as he does sometimes to sub in. So welcome back, Ish.
Good to be here as always.
And then at the relatively last minute, Sam had something come up and wasn't able to join us. So we said, you know what? We have never had a problem filling the time on Behind the DM Screen. Ish and I will do it, just the 2 of us this month. So here we are. And Ish, while you're down in games, you still have 3 games to talk about. That could fill an hour.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. And there's a lot of flux happening. But what's the order? Do I go first or do you?
You actually will go second. So the order is me, you, and then the non-existent Sam.
That works.
So I don't know if I'll even set a timer since there's just the 2 of us. I'll just want to keep an eye on things and try not to talk forever. So I'll start off talking about my game. Last time we recorded Behind the DM Screen, and were you here for that one?
I think I was, if I remember correctly.
No, we actually had Mike and Sam last time. So
okay.
You were here 2 months ago, but not last month. So you may not be hip to what I'm up to these days. I talked about running a session 0 for a new campaign last month.
Oh, yeah.
I started my Spelljammer campaign. And I started it with the Spelljammer Academy, sort of, I don't know, free on D&D Beyond published adventure that's sort of a prequel to Light of Xerxes, which is the campaign that was published with the Spelljammer box set. Box set? I don't know. 3 books in a sleeve. It wasn't really a box set, whatever you want to call it. And so we ran. So it's interesting. Spelljammer Academy and Light of Xerxes are set up to be like each chapter or each part of the adventure is assumed to be 1 session. So Spelljammer Academy is 4 parts, and the assumption is that you run each part for 1 session, and you level up after each part. So by the end of it, they're level 5. So that then they're ready to go into. That's part of the issue with Light of Xerxes. It's a very short campaign, and it goes 5 through 10 or something like that. It doesn't even go to 12. So it's a relatively short campaign, and there's each one of them is like there's 4 parts. Each part is broken up into 3 chapters. Each chapter is assumed to be 1 session. So it is a 12 session. It is assumed to be a 12 session campaign and then done. We can talk about whether or not that's going to play out. I'll be curious. Now, in Spelljammer Academy, we did successfully do one part per session. So it took 4 sessions to get through Spelljammer Academy. They finished at level 5. The players even at one point were like, wow, it seems like we're leveling really fast in this campaign. I'm like, okay, well, that was to get you to the level. Like, it's a bit of a speed run to get you to the level 5, so then we can run the rest of the campaign. And they did it that way on purpose, but that's fine. Spelljammer Academy is the story of they are cadets in the Forgotten Realms Spelljammer Academy. One of the founders of the Spelljammer Academy was Mert, who you might know from Waterdeep Dragon Heist. They know Mert from the very first campaign I ran with this group in Indiana, which included Waterdeep Dragon Heist as part of the campaign. So they knew Mert from that pretty well. And so they were excited to sort of see him again, which works out well because all of my campaigns are all building towards the next campaign, which is Vecna, Eve of Ruin. Vecna has sort of been the meta villain in all of my campaigns that caused all of the things to happen in order to distract everybody from high level powerful adventurers to the gods themselves. And so that's what all of my campaigns have been about, is Vecna doing all kinds of shenanigans to keep people busy so that he can be doing his thing and nobody's paying attention. This campaign is not any different. As part of the adventures in Spelljammer Academy, not only are they learning a little bit about how spelljamming works and the various like ship rules and things there are for Spelljammer, like the players are learning some of that. So they're learning a little bit about the Spelljammer lore and the different species and things that are around, all that kind of stuff. But it's also their characters are learning all this stuff because it's an academy, right? It's a little bit Hogwarts in that way, right? But meanwhile, while all that's going on, there's a slowly unfolding plot that a mercane, which are these like merchant giants in Spelljammer that like craft and sell spelljamming helms, which are the things that make spelljammers work. There's one that has been through his agents been manipulating the academy and sabotaging it. And it turns out that mercane is a specific mercane named Vokath, which will be interesting because I'm sure they did that on purpose, because Vokath shows up in Light of Xerxes towards the end, and you actually need to form an alliance with him. So if you've been running through the whole thing, it's like, oh yeah, here's this guy that was like responsible for killing my friends early in the campaign and really hated Mert, which is why he was sabotaging the academy, because he didn't like Mert. And now I've got to figure out how to make friends with him and form an alliance with him, or else the bad guys are going to win. So, so that was sort of the first 4 sessions. And then we ran 1 session last week of the actual Light of Xerxes campaign. The Light of Xerxes campaign begins with, you've graduated from the academy. I mean, this is the bridge. So, obviously the adventure doesn't assume you've done Spelljammer Academy, but the idea was that they've graduated from the academy and they've been sent off to Neverwinter to await a ship for their first, birth or whatever, their first assignment, if you will. But while they're waiting for that ship to arrive in Neverwinter, crystal seeds the size and relative shape of coffins start flying out of the sky and crashing into the ground and sprouting giant, in some cases, giant like 1,000-foot high, 50-foot across crystal vines that start bursting out of the ground, and all kinds of shenanigans ensue. Some of them sprout smaller things, and they become what were called astral blights. These blight creatures that are sort of your combat challenge as you flee from Neverwinter, get to the docks, to the one spelljamming ship that you know is at the harbor to flee for safety. And they flee for safety. I had done some work to modify Spelljammer Academy to lay the groundwork for this. So in the campaign as written, it's just a random spelljamming captain who happened to be near them while they were having lunch when the astral rain happened. And they're like, "Oh, you should totally get to my ship and seek safety," just randomly. That this happens, right? It's a relatively goodly privateer captain, Captain Elena Sartell, with the first mate and spelljammer Flapjack, the Flumph, who wears a big fancy like pirate hat with a big feather out of it. But I decided that was a weak opening. Like, why would you trust this random person who says, "Hey, spend an hour running through this destruction and get to my ship so we can flee"? So I tweaked Spelljammer Academy a little bit. Their first actual like in space, not simulation mission was to take a derelict beholder ship to a beholder planet, recover an adamantine asteroid, and get back with it. At one point on the way back, the adventure has them being attacked by the Mercane Vokath, his agents. And I said, "Oh, this is an opportunity. Let's have the attack damage their helm. Because without a helm, spelljamming ships can't fly. So their helm gets damaged, and now they're stranded in space. This is an opportunity then for Captain Sartell, who has friends and acquaintances in the academy, to swing by and pick them up and bring them home." So now they know Sartell. They've got a connection there. They have some reason to trust her. She's rescued them once before. Now they're not just having lunch and she happens to be nearby. They're having lunch with her because she's in Neverwinter. They're in Neverwinter. They already know each other. So they decide to get together. And then when the craziness and the chaos happens, and Captain Sartell says, "Oh, crap. Well, I know you all. I should save you. My ship's here. Meet me there." Uses her Cape of the Mountebank that I gave her so that she could escape. Because the adventure as written does this this annoying video game thing of the NPC says, "Hey, go do this," and then like runs into the crowd and disappears. And it's like, wait a minute. Why couldn't I just run with them? Why couldn't we get there together? But they want the PCs to have to face the challenges on their own, right? So I gave her a Cape of the Mountebank so that she could at least dimension door a long ways away and get a head start. So
it's probably born of like this idea of like, oh, let's make things. Well, actually, no, this predates Dungeon Crawler Carl, right?
Well, I mean, early Dungeon Crawler Carl was a long time ago, but I don't think it really picked up until a few years ago. So,
but now when I think of like video game type like scenarios in an RPG, I think of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I wonder if that had any influence.
It felt like somebody who's been playing a lot of Final Fantasy to me. So I think it was just a little bit of a design flaw, and it was one of the things that was sort of on the trailing end of like the Perkins and Crawford era and Dan Dillon's time. Like he worked on this, whatever. So I wonder if they weren't sort of on their way out and focusing their attention on future things at that point. So there are some weaknesses in the construction, and this was one of them. But I threw some stuff in and made it work, made it make sense. They got their way to the Moon Dancer. That's the name of Sartell's ship. And then that's the other place where I made some tweaks. As written, there's a local crime boss with his gang, like shoving refugees away and stopping them from getting on the ship because they're going to take over the ship and use it to get away with their contraband, which only marginally makes sense in as much as like, why would this crime boss know that this is a spelljammer and know what spelljammers are, right? And if they know, then how is it that they're not freaking the heck out when the ship like takes off into the sky and shoots up into space? So I had, instead of having this crime lord or crime boss trying to take over the ship,
they were trying to get all their goods on and keep the refugees off because their goods were more important than people's lives. And it just turned into Captain Sartell being like, hey, these guys are making trouble. I'm trying to save lives and they're getting in the way. Can you all take care of them now that you're here? And so it was just another little combat fight that wasn't against just Astral Blight group after Astral Blight group, over and over again, which works out well because otherwise there's this whole storyline in the next few chapters of like, does the crime boss try to take over later on, or does he have control? And Sartell tries to take her ship back, and how does this all play out? What happens when they're attacked by the Astral Elf Empire, which is the big bads of the whole campaign, and all of that? I think it was just easier. If I'm going to have to deal with refugees, I don't want to also have to deal with this gang and the machinations of them trying to take over the ship and whatever, especially when you're going to get 3 chapters into this campaign and then the ship's going to leave you anyway, and you're never going to see Captain Sartell and the Moon Dancer again. Like, it's just not worth it to lay the groundwork of this struggle if it's not going to matter, very quickly. So I found Chapter 1, that was all of Chapter 1, is just the escape to the Moon Dancer, and then the Moon Dancer takes off. It's intended to be very sort of pulpy of an adventure, and so every chapter ends in a cliffhanger. And so this one, like, they take off and, oh no, there's another ship. Like, we just had the shock of like shooting up into space, and now there's another ship over there, and it doesn't look friendly. End of session. Except I got to the end of that first chapter and looked at the time and said, oh, we still have an hour of our time to play for the night. And we only have like 4 hours to play. And also the next chapter, which is dealing with this other ship, is just that one encounter. I'm like, that's not going to fill a session. What are they doing? So we flew through the first 2 chapters in 4 hours. And that was with probably an hour of just chit chat and socializing. And I'm wondering if the rest of it is paced similarly tricky. Like, some of it has more going on. Some of it feels like it's about the same fast-paced speed. That encounter with the other ship is a Star Moth. That is the favored ship type for the astral elves of the Empire of Xerixis. Xerixis is the name of their star. And they got a real thing for X's. So the star is Xerixis. The empire is the Empire of Xerixis. Their emperor is Zavin, and the princess is Zedeli, or maybe the princess is Zavin and Zedeli, and then the emperor is another X name, and it's a lot of X names. And what they're starting to learn is sort of the larger arc of what's going on, is that the Empire of Xerixis like uses the power of their sun, and it slowly drains it. And so every now and then they have to go drain all of the life out of a planet, which then, once the vines absorb all of the life off of a planet, it in one giant burst beams it to their sun in the deep astral part of space to reignite their sun so they can keep doing their thing. And so if they want to save their planet, they basically have to end the Empire of Xerixis as we know it. But they're just coming to terms with that now. One of the other things I did in this campaign is I wanted to get back to something I have done in the past and hadn't done for a campaign or two now, in that I wanted to make each character particularly special. So I came up with a special customization thing for each character. I have 5 characters. We have the Plasmoid Paladin of Timora, the goddess of good luck. Plasmoids are like big humanoid amoeba things. I enjoyed the fact that this Plasmoid is green and his name is Blue. I think that wasn't intentional. I think he originally just was named Blue and had and thought he was blue. And then I said, well, here's some possible artwork I found on the internet. Which one do you think best fits your character? He says, that one. I'm like, haha, I enjoy the fact that your name is Blue, but you're green. So him in Spelljammer Academy, I had him find a book that I created called The Gambler's Guide to Wild Space, tying in the whole luck thing and the Spelljammer thing and all of that. And each of these has at least a small mechanical benefit. So with the Gambler's Guide to Wild Space, he's actually deciphered at this point like 3 different maneuvers that he can do from the book. But he has to pick which one he wants to prepare each day. And they're relatively minor things. It's like add a D4 here or do this thing there or whatever. But they're relatively minor things. You can do it once a day. So it's small, low-powered things. But the story of it is it was written by the genie, I think his name is Nefas from Tales of the Infinite Staircase. And it was written by him, hundreds of years ago. And it's ironic because I have since read Dungeon Crawler Carl, like we were talking about before. It's gotten passed down from adventurer to adventurer, and everybody's added to it. So now there's, only half of the book was actually written by Nefas, and the rest of it was written by all these other adventurers, and it has all this extra stuff in it. And so I'm going to use it and seed things into it throughout the way. Today I was working on, I've got an outline for the whole campaign, and I came up with story beats for each character's little customized thing and how they're going to pop up here and there and how they all play into the end. I have the Thrycreen Druid, who has a weird connection to the stars. And so the first time he saw the moon Selune, his eyes went completely black. And so he has a slight thing that he can do with his perception. He can activate every now and then. I have the GIF monk. GIF are hippo people. This player always names his characters after like classic rock musicians. Mm-hmm. And so in his backstory, he made up something about how he always felt guilty that somebody came to his world asking for people to go with him on a grand adventure. And then he didn't go because he was scared. And then they went out and found some great treasure. And the great treasure was called the Stratocaster because he's playing into the classic rock thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, in Spelljammer Academy, he found the remains of that captain's crew. They did not actually end up making it, and he found the Stratocaster, which was a magical sitar or sitar, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And it had a big astral gem in it, and as soon as he touched it, it like resonated with his key, and the gem shattered, releasing a spirit that was trapped in it that then bonded with him. And it's a spirit of an astral elf from Xerxes who died rebelling against the emperor because they felt that they had been corrupted. And so there's a slight mechanical benefit, like once per day, he can do a little bit of extra radiant damage and then take an extra 10 feet of movement for free after an attack. So little stuff like that. But now he's got this spirit connected to him. And I've had fun imagining and describing like the way when he activates it, he's doing his martial arts and there's like an echo of, like a flipbook echo of that spirit trailing behind him, imitating the moves and all that. And then I have the most crazy of the PCs, my human wizard, standard class, standard species, whose grandfather helped found the Spelljammer Academy, so he's got this big legacy to live up to. This is a player who's, for multiple campaigns, really wanted to have a pet dog, particularly Hellhound. And he almost made it work in Avernus, but Hellhounds don't want to be trained by mortals, right? That's not how that works. So inevitably, it eventually betrayed them. Well, this time, he chose that his grandfather passed down to him this compass as sort of a spell jamming artifact or whatever. And I tweaked that compass to be, I call it the Cinder Compass. And bound in that compass is the spirit of a Hellhound. And it gives him some abilities, like you can use it to mark an enemy, and for 12 hours, you can follow them anywhere and never lose track of their location. And then the first time you attack them after they're marked, you do an extra D12 of fire damage for that first attack. And in theory, you can mark somebody with a bonus action and then attack him that round and get the extra fire damage every now and then. But he hasn't figured that out yet, I guess. So yeah, and then I decided I was a little bit inspired by Dimension 20. I don't know how familiar you are with Dimension 20.
I've seen it like on and off.
Okay. So in the original campaign, Fantasy High, one of the characters has a demon possessed motorcycle. And that's where this idea originally came from. And so I put the Hellhound in the compass, but the compass, they're going to discover later in the campaign, can be used to turn on basically a small, like 2-person motorcycle spelljamming ship. And the compass is the power source that can turn it on, and it, you know, flies around. It's a little bit of the Hangman from Fantasy High. It's a little bit of Lobo's motorcycle from DC Comics.
I was going to say, yeah.
So it's got all kinds of fun things that I think will happen there. And then we have the last one is Gulp. Is the name of the character. Gulp is a 100-year-old awakened fish in a robot body. Is an artificer using the Warforged mechanics.
Awesome.
So, and for them, that player has always had a thing for like ravens and things. So I gave, since they're an artificer, and they're part of their story is that their mentor is missing, I gave them a clockwork corvid. So it's a mechanical bird that their mentor had created, and it pops up, and every now and then with the right trigger, it opens its mouth, or it shines light out of its eyes, and it does sort of the R2-D2 little holographic image of the mentor giving a message along the way. So I did all these custom things, and I've outlined now out all of the sort of beats of where they're going to hit, what are 4 story beats for each one, and where are they going to fit into the campaign at what chapters, and all that kind of stuff. So I spent maybe 2 or 3 hours today working on D&D prep, making outlines, but I'm an educator in the summer, so I do have the time to pull that off every now and then. So
no, that's fantastic. And it sounds like you're pretty inspired by some of that stuff. You know, I don't want to interject too much, but I've got some questions that I've got queued up from everything you said. So yeah, the whole thing about the special thing, I know that's carried over from the the last campaign you did, which is the Fandelver and whatnot.
Yeah, I did.
And what my big question is, how did you redo the special thing from that campaign to this campaign? And did you see, did people take to it better than they did last time? Because I think you were like, some people took to it, some people didn't.
Yeah.
And I wonder how it played out this time.
I feel like so far this time I've made it more overt, and I've done it for everybody. And because it has, even though it's small, it has a little mechanical benefit to it. And it keeps coming up. I keep having these beats where it's referenced, you know. I think they're taking to it more this time, in a way that I don't think I've really had a lot of success since Avernus. I feel like Witchlight, I didn't even try to do a ton of customization. I mean, I always customize, right? But I didn't try to do a special thing for everybody sort of thing. In Fandelver, I did a little bit, but honestly, not a lot. I mostly just added a few different locations or whatever, trying to make sure there was connections for people there. So, but yeah, so far I feel like they're much more clued into it, and it's playing directly into the story. And I've actually came up with how is all this going to matter in the end? Like in the last part when it's them against the Empire. And at one point, spoiler for Light of Xerxes, at the very, very end of the last chapter, they have to decide whether or not to blow up a sun or not. And if you do blow up the sun, like it explodes in a supernova that's 100 million miles wide, that wipes out one of the planets in the system, and almost certainly whoever went into the sun to blow it up. So it's an opportunity for a character to sacrifice themselves and whatever. And I came up with ways that all of these little custom features are going to make it possible to blow up the sun and nobody dies, right? In a very pulpy way, sort of fly, you know, the Thri-Kreen is going to be able to use a special vision to notice that there is a cool channel running into the sun, so that the wizard on the motorcycle spelljamming ship will be able to navigate it, but big ships are too big to fit into it. And The artificer goldfish is going to have learned from the mentors studies the things they need to send all of the enemy ships away so they're not being attacked when they're running into the sun. And then the plasmoid gambler's guide character will learn one last maneuver right before the end where you can switch the location of the book with another object. And so he can switch the location of the little motorcycle ship and the book with the other PC on it, saving his life, but sacrificing his book in the process. So everybody's got a moment at the end where like this could all come together and we have a happy ending, but only if everybody does their part and all of these little customizations come together.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it could be really cool.
That sounds fantastic. It sounds like you're really weaving it into the narrative, which I think, you know, having heard your bit about it in the Lost Mines campaign, it makes me want to do something like that, because I think I try and tailor a few things to people in particular, but not necessarily like a specific thing. I did my Ravenloft campaign where like everybody had an item, and that item was essentially their Dorian Gray item. They couldn't let it get destroyed or whatever. But I think I need, and I'll talk about my campaigns in a moment. But I think I really want to do that in one of the ones coming up, to make like not just an item, but like a thing that really weaves them into the story. But that's cool. The other point I wanted to bring up, which you brought up earlier, was about how there were like some flaws in the way that the campaign, both the earlier part with the 1 through 5 and maybe even the later part, where it was very reminiscent of when I used to run Adventurers League. And I think a lot of it was like maybe writing that was a little bit rushed because they were trying to get things out for certain seasons. There were campaigns that felt like they were writing them in a vacuum. They had never run them or they had run them for their home group. And so they never thought like, what if the group asks this, or what if the group considers that? And I think I see that a lot more in maybe recent writings that Wizards of the Coast has done. Used to be like an Adventurers League thing. I think now it's just like the books that they're releasing officially too, where they don't. Number one, I think there's a penchant for being like everybody levels up at the end of every campaign or every session, which sounds so rushed. Like if it's not Shadow of the Demon Lord, it feels like a lot within a short amount of time. But also, it's trying to squish it. Like it's trying to squish an experience into 2 to 4 hours, and sometimes there's too much to do and you have to skip it, and sometimes you got to really draw it out, which is sounding like exactly what you did.
Yeah. No, and honestly, I don't know that it's as a recent of a 5th edition adventures have been plagued with these kinds of flaws pretty much from the beginning, especially since WotC started publishing their own. Honestly, I feel like they were maybe a little tighter in writing when they were using studios like Sasquatch or Kobold Press or whatever, but maybe a little bit less of the aesthetic that they were going for, of the 5e aesthetic. So I like there's an in-between there, and I know from experience, because I spent over a decade as one of the playtesters for WotC. They don't playtest like the narrative through. Like anytime we got playtest, it was like, hey, we need to make sure this encounter is balanced, run this encounter. You know, and there was very little of testing, like, or even having people do a just from a different perspective, do a thorough read through to be like, hey, these are, you know, a lot of these problems I can identify from a thorough reading without having to actually run them. And then I find other problems besides, you know, the ones that I found when I read were true, and then I find other ones when I actually run sometimes too. But I'm an experienced DM; it's less of an issue for me. I'm more worried about the newer DMs that are coming in and they're having to figure out how to fill these gaps or jump over these holes. So.
Yeah, and so I have not looked through the new Dungeon Master Guide 2024. But if it's not in there, I think it's not, you can't teach it exactly. You can't tell people like, hey, look for these story beats because your players are going to make your life hell if you don't connect point A to point B. But it also just helps to maybe list things where, hey, your players are going to ask questions. Sometimes you just have to think like, you know, here's not like a list of excuses you can give them, but like if you're gonna connect these things that are not connected, think about how it moves the story forward. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, we could probably talk about like DM advice in that very general sense all day, but like I wonder if there's any of that in the new book.
Back in the day, Tracy and I read a book from Robin Laws called Hamlet's Hit Points. And it was him talking about constructing your games using story beats and what have you. And this is the first time I've ever actually really thought through story beats and how they functioned. I'm not doing it in the Hamlet's Hit Point style. It was just too complex for me to really like figure out how to do well, because he talked a lot about like there's different kinds of beats. There's up beats and there's down beats and there's these beats and there's those beats, and you should have a good mix of these, and this kind of beat should never follow that kind of beat and whatever. It's like, oh, well, that's really good. And then he went through a bunch of examples, like and that's where he got the title. Let's look at Hamlet. How does the story of Hamlet play out? Here's all the beats, and here's how you would chart them out and whatever. And for a while, I tried to see if I could do that on the fly. Like I kept index cards behind my screen with like upbeat, downbeat, whatever. And every time one of them happened, I just move it to the other side of the table. And that way I would know I've already done some of these. I need to do some of the others or whatever, just as a little reminder, a visual reminder. But even that became too much to try to track while also doing all the other things that DMs do. So, but I enjoyed going back and doing beats and constructing things in this way. This may be the most controversial thing I say, but one of the things that was very helpful was I used Google's Gemini AI, but specifically they have a service called Notebook, where you can feed it sources and it references your sources when it's generating stuff instead of crawling the web. And so I fed it specifically like the official chapters and the PDFs of the DMs Guild stuff that I bought that are supplemental to the adventure and have advice on it, some advice websites from people that have run the adventure. That's all I fed it. All right. And so then it was like, and then I just used it as like okay, it's going to, I could create an outline of everything. That's going to take forever. You make an outline for me. Okay, great. Now I've come up with these story beats, interject those into the outline. And so I just had it sort of iterating on an outline for me over and over again. And it saved me probably hours where, I spent 3 hours working on it. It probably would have been a 7-hour job otherwise. So, but I know some people are not going to be pleased with the fact that I'm using AI to do some of this work.
And I mean, so obviously there's a lot to be said about AI with the resources that it takes up and whatnot. I could very easily see like you can install an AI into your computer to do very rudimentary things like what you're saying that wouldn't necessarily do that. But I wouldn't be shocked, especially with recent developments, if Wizards of the Coast decided, hey, we're going to integrate an AI into D&D Beyond. And all it does is it takes all of that information. And if you want to talk to it to say, hey, help me run this campaign, help me make an outline. Sure. And then it will just spit out like information and so on. That might be like $5 a month to get.
If they if they put an AI in place of their search engine so that they could actually find things on D&D Beyond, that would be a bonus.
And not just look through the forums anytime you ask for like, what's this spell? Yeah, I feel that.
So before I stop and we switch over to you, I want to remind people that they can support our show by going to patreon.com/thetomeshow. And for as little as $1 a month, you can help us, help me pay the bills and do the things I need to do. Pay for a paid version of the streaming service so that we don't get cut off, which we're going to get cut off in 1 hour and 1 minute and 42 seconds now. We only get 1 hour per session, and a bunch of the session was not recording, and so that counted. And then we had the tech support time, and that counted. And so we're going to get cut off before Ish gets to talk about his game. But you can always go to thetomeshow.com and listen to the audio of him discussing the game there as well.
This is going to be the bonus content.
There you go. The bonus content is go and see what Ish has to say about his game. So I'm going to end the stream here for the 2 people watching. At least one of which might be